Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
Everyone thinks that they're alone in what they're experiencing. And I think the most important part is to say, no, we're all experiencing this, right? That this is the human condition of up and down emotions. But then there is a point in which maybe we do need extra support and extra help, and it turns into a mental health condition or an illness. But it's no different than if you have high blood pressure or you sprained your ankle. We have to treat that. And just like you're saying, treatment is doing the therapy, doing the medications, seeing the appropriate people, your own self-care. But if you're not even aware that those things exist, then how can you know that there's a solution for what you're experiencing? And that's what's important for people to also know, right? We don't want to talk about what we don't know we can fix. But this is something that is fixable. And we continue to push this narrative so that people can say, I do need help. And then within that athlete population, I think part of it is they don't want to look quote unquote weak, right? Because that's the terminology that has been used over and over again. But what we know is vulnerability is strength, honesty is strength. And when you're able to face that yourself, then you're able to move towards assistance and towards getting help and towards moving to the life that you want to live. And I think about empathy and sympathy like two different things. Sympathy is looking down at somebody and saying, oh, I'm sorry, and I'm feeling sorry for you. Right. Empathy is you sit down with them. You sit down with them and you say, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, but I'm here for you. I may not be able to fix it, and that's not my job to fix it. And that's the other thing for us, right? We always want to try to fix something, but that isn't our job. Our job is to be there to let people know that they're not alone. Just like anything we do in life, right? It's always better when you have somebody else typically with you, right? Especially a new experience or something you're unsure of what's going to happen. When you have somebody that's there with you, it's automatically better. And so when people are also struggling, they also just want somebody with them there to know that I'm not alone and I'm validated and I'm seen in what I'm experiencing. Again, to go back to they're put on a pedestal, so then they feel less inclined to talk about when they're having a more difficult time, right? And so when it actually comes to manifest, what I find in my experience is it has been going on for a long time, right? We're not in the prevention stage. We're more in a reaction stage for that.
Right.
Athletes get injured, right? And so injuries automatically, especially for you as a physical therapist, you see them very regularly. That we know is a risk factor for decreasing their mental health or manifesting into a mental health illness. Whether it's actually diagnosable or not, what we know is that they are going to have struggles with that injury because it takes them out of their sport. Again, they're not allowed to exercise in some cases, and we know evidence-based shows us that exercise decreases the rates of depression and anxiety. We know that those athletes, a lot of their identity is wrapped into the sport. A lot of, especially the gymnasts, right? Especially at the higher level, they're not going to school. They're doing online school pre-pandemic. And so they have little hobbies or other activities that they are doing outside of the gym. And so then it becomes that the gym is their life. But we want to break that away and say, what else are the other things that you can do to distract your mind from the gym so that you know that whether you win or you lose, or whether you go to the gym or you don't go to the gym, that doesn't tell us if you're a good person or a bad person. That doesn't tell us your worth. Just tells us that, okay, you do this other sport, but you also have your family, your friends, your kindness, your personality, and how you can change the world for just being who you are, not from the successes that you may or may not have from gymnastics. And then like you talked about, competition anxiety, right? It's very stressful to compete. And when you have to compete for your teammates, that is a difficult thing for that. And so I think athletes have many different layers that make it more difficult to seek out and ask for help. And they just may have risk factors that increase the risk of these issues. They have little hobbies or other activities that they are doing outside of the gym. And so then it becomes that the gym is their life. But we want to break that away and say, what else are the other things that you can do to distract your mind from the gym so that you know that whether you win or you lose, or whether you go to the gym or you don't go to the gym, that doesn't tell us if you're a good person or a bad person. That doesn't tell us your worth. Just tells us that, okay, you do this other sport, but you also have your family, your friends, your kindness, your personality, and how you can change the world for just being who you are, not from the successes that you may or may not have from gymnastics. Even if you feel that disappointment or that anger inside because the athlete didn't do as well, that is also not wrong, but it's what you are going to reflect to the athlete. Okay. That is what's most important. While you can work on your inner self, it's what is coming off to the athlete. And I'd also like to say that if you were upset and that athlete felt that, and sometimes we all make mistakes, we're human, right? But the next step is to apologize. And I think it's okay to go to the athlete and say, listen, I feel like you may have experienced me feeling upset with you for not doing well, but that was incorrect. And the reasons were for myself and nothing to do with you, right? And so when you can state that out loud to the athlete or to the parent or to anyone else around you, right, then that is powerful. Because then they take that load off of themselves too. And I have a friend who's a therapist, and she always says, what is the story you're telling yourself? Right? What is the story that we are all telling ourselves? And if that athlete, if you're upset with something else going on in the gym, that story that athlete may be telling themselves is, oh no, they're upset with me because I didn't do well. Whereas that coach's story, maybe that they're telling themselves is, I'm upset that this happened over here. And they don't even have a recognition of the athlete, being affected by them. And so again, it's just communication, right? And over communicating. I heard a statistic that whenever you're having a conversation, you only hear about, I think it was 15 or 17% of what the other person is saying.
Whoa.
Right. And so even when I have conversations with good friends and there's a disagreement and, I state my side and that person states their side, and then we realize where we just missed each other. Right. We still have the same morals, values, ethics, things of that nature, but we just have our own lens that we see life through because of our upbringing, because of our experience in life. And so we are always interpreting through our own lens. And so the only way to really break that down is communication, right? Communication. Whether you're in the gym and the athlete is saying, something's hurting right now and they're not speaking, but the coach might think, oh, they don't want to do gym today, or maybe something's going on, right? And the athlete's like, no, I'm scared that they're going to think that I don't want to do gym, but that's not the case. I'm not feeling good. There's so much that is lost, where if we can just open up dialogue, honest dialogue, again, going back to being in a safe environment where your feelings are validated and appreciated, then so much change can happen. I have to consciously remind myself, because I move so fast that I have to tell myself, slow down and listen. And so even when I'm in clinic, if it's athletes or my general population, I try to reiterate the story back to them. That forces me to make sure I heard what they're saying and to listen. And so I think it's a type of dialogue. I can't recall the name right now, but it's
motivational interviewing.
Motivational interviewing. And there's another term for it. I'm going to look it up for you. But it's just reiterating what the person said to you.
Sure.
And then making sure that you're understanding what their statement was or what the question was, and then you can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes people are like, oh, they're going to get annoyed because I'm just literally repeating back to what you said. Well, it's better to over repeat back than risk not being heard at all.
Exactly. And it's so common that that's not what they were trying to say. Even though you said something, sometimes that wasn't the point you were trying to get across.
Yeah.
And so then when somebody repeats it back to you, you're like, oh, actually, that's not what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say was X, Y, and Z. And it happens so often, but we're just human. And sometimes we don't realize how things are landing on other people. First and foremost, you go to whoever that adult figure around you who is a safe person, whether that is your parents or your guardian, whoever that may be, your coaches, maybe not your direct coach, a different coach in the gym that you have a relationship with. Maybe it's a teacher. Anybody that's around you, the first step is to state it out loud. And sometimes that even might be a teammate. Hey, I'm feeling like this. And then maybe it's encouraging that teammate to say, hey, maybe you should talk to an adult about it so that we can get you help in that manner. You find your safe space for that. And if that adult is not sure which direction to go, then you get them to their parents or their guardian most of the time, right? Not all the time, because all families and all relationships are not perfect, as we know. And so you get them to whoever that athlete says is their safe person. Because then from there, you can say, okay, let me get you to the physician so we can talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on. And then we can create a treatment plan behind that.
Mm.
And so I think first and foremost is to ask for that help and to find that safe space in which you can go and know what's going on. And for that person receiving somebody who's coming in and asking for help, just to reiterate that it is so important to really directly ask people, are you thinking about hurting yourself, or have you hurt yourself?
Mm.
And are you thinking about killing yourself? If the answer is not an adamant no, I take that as a yes, right? Even if they're like, well, no, I don't think so. No, that's not a no to me. That's a yes to me. And that means we need to further escalate this conversation. And there's a lot of fear that by asking someone these things, we're going to plant this seed in their brain that maybe this is something they want to do. Maybe they do want to hurt themselves in some manner. But evidence has shown us that is not true. They just want somebody to ask them so that they can discuss it and say, like, how can I get help? I think as adults, sometimes we sit ourselves higher than the children, right? Or the young athletes in that manner. But sometimes we have to bring ourselves down to that level, because we, especially as medical professionals, we have a psychological power. What we say, what we do, how we move, they're noticing it. And just by the pure society and the culture of what we do, we have to be aware of that. But parents and coaches also have that power, that psychological power in which you are sitting a little bit higher than where that athlete is. And so as much as you can to take off that armor for them to feel safe with you is really important. And to know that the way that you approach somebody is critical to them feeling like they're able to express themselves to you or not.